Hi guys, Jenny here and I'm back with another 12x12 process video for you today, and this one's for the Kitaholic Kits using the October kits. So I just quickly showed you the photo. It's Toby, our little calf, who was born out of season, way out of season, and my husband ended up keeping him. We didn't want to get rid of him. This was on the old farm, by the way, because he's a little Jersey calf. And so he ended up over at our house, and he was kind of like a little pet. He was a little rat bag. He would get into the chicken hutch, try to climb in the chicken hutch. He would, because he was a little bull, like to bunt things. So of course, when I went out of the paddock, he wanted to play. So he would jump around and barge me. But he was lovely. He was a funny little boy. But yeah, so I'm just kind of documenting that today, and I thought the colours in the photo, the bright poppy yellow from the feeder and the green grass, went really well with the stuff that's in this month's kit, which is the Vicky Bouton's field note collection. And yeah, I really wanted to focus on that green, so I've picked this green leaf pattern paper. And it's a bit too overwhelming for an entire background pattern paper, but a strip of it down the centre I think is fine. So I'm going to go for a vertical central design. So I've of course cut that strip. I don't know what size, it's just a random size. I've cut a strip of the dark blue pattern paper, just add a pop of that, and then of course strips of this heart pattern paper. I really like this pattern paper, and I'm just kind of laying it all central down the page. I did mark with my pencil either side so that I could line those two heart pattern papers up straight first, and then just kind of glue everything down around it. So I'm just going to adhere the central piece down. Just laying that down, and then I'm going to flick it over and trim off the excess. And there we go, so I can start embellishing the rest of the page. So I'm going to bring that dark blue in again. That's a nice, going to be a nice frame for the photo. So I'm just adhering that, trimming it off, and I'm not going to add any more pattern papers behind the photo. So these black glossy phrases was part of the kit as well, and I'm pretty sure these go with the Field Notes collection. And it had one of a kind on it, and I thought, well, that's perfect because he is kind of one of a kind. And I've cut them off and left the packaging on the back of them so that I can kind of shuffle them around the page. And I thought about having them central like that and having the letters or the words of going across the photo. I do end up changing it, but it does kind of stay in the same place. So I'm going to start my embellishing process now, and I'm just going to flick through the die cuts packs. There's two in the kit, and I'm just pulling out pieces that I like the idea of. I'm not kind of going to do my usual thing and pull out things that I think may work. I'm just going to kind of add them as I go and take them off. Yeah, so I want a few layers behind my photo just to help make it pop off that dark green background, because of course the photo's green, so we want to lift it off the page a bit. So a couple of layers to the left, and I'm just again pulling out pieces. Everything in this collection can kind of work with this layout, so I'm having a hard time kind of narrowing it down, especially because there's so many pieces in the die cut packs that I want to use. So this is an idea I had. I thought about using these frames, and of course it went on a diagonal design. I've already done a diagonal design this month. I don't need to do another, so they quickly get taken off. There we go. And just continue to flick through the pieces. Everything could work, but I need to kind of get some balance, and I don't want to overwhelm the page. Got a little tag just for a pop of interest. I'm going to tuck that under the photo. Now I'm going to go through the second die cut pack. A little bird, I tried it, but it just wasn't quite working for me. I like that piece. I really contemplated it, Find Me Where the Wild Things Are, but it was a bit too much of an organic shape to go with those harsh lines of my vertical pattern paper. So I go with the florals. I just can't help myself. I'm going to use up the die cut ones. I haven't used a ton of these. I've been using fussy cut ones. And I think I mentioned in my last video that I have weird issues with the white outlines on die cuts and fussy cuts. But anyway, we won't go over that again. I do end up adding some fussy cut florals just to beef it up a bit, but the majority of them have the white border, so I'm okay with that. Yeah. Okay, so I've kind of got a direction now. I'm going for florals to the left and the right. And I've ended up with like pink and white ones on the left hand side and red and white ones on the right, and I quite like that. It's heading a bit towards a tone on tone embellishing, and I love to do that. It's a great way to embellish. So yeah, so I'm going to go through these phrase chipboard things. I've tried my hardest to get these on the page, and there's just so many. I think I'll be using these forever. But I did put one to the right hand side. That was a nice neutral. It was white and black and gold. And then a red one, again with that tone on tone embellishing that says heart, so that's got to the right. I've got another neutral I've popped to the left, which is white, and I'm going to bring in some pink pieces to the left hand side. So we've got some hearts. I'm just going to fuss with it a bit. I do move it down, there we go, to the bottom just to get a bit of balance. And just continuing to look for things. Radio, so I can kind of put my title in place. Trying to work out whether it's still going to fit, and that's when I decided it's not going to go on the photo. But I'm rather happy with how things are progressing, so I'm going to glue these pieces down. So my little tab, I'm going to glue that flower to the back of my photo, this little banner, and I'm going to glue these layers behind the photo, and this pink. I've got a little sandfly driving me nuts. I will get him eventually. And then I felt like there wasn't a balance with those layers behind the photo, so I popped another die cut, and it had a pop of red on it to the right hand side. So I've got pink and red on the other side of the photos, which is again with my tone on tone embellishing. Okay, so I'm going to glue that whole thing down. I've popped some adhesive foam behind it, and then I can add these little labels just stacked up above the photo. And I can work at gluing down these floral pieces. So I'm going to use a combination of glue and adhesive foam at the tips just to pop them off the page. Bit of glue under that large floral piece and a little foam square, as well as a little bit of foam behind that chipboard piece. Glue and foam under this flower. And continue gluing on the other side. Super simple process. Continuing with the glue and the adhesive foam. Glue that down. And then I'm going to layer up these flowers. And this chipboard piece, I'm going to pop a square of foam behind that flower. Okay, my title, just kind of fitting it back in place. And I quite like that design across the centre, or across the horizontal, gosh, I'm lost for words, of the page. So I'm just peeling half of that plastic backing off and just kind of pulling it off as I've popped them in place. Then I don't lose the position that the letters are in. I like the way that they are set out on that backing sheet. So just peeling that off. There we go. My title's done. So I felt like I needed a little bit more, and so I'm going through the die cut packs, and I came across these moths. Now I wasn't too keen on them. They're very mothy. Is that the right word? But when I put them on the layout, I actually really liked them, and I didn't mind that they were moths. That probably sounds really super weird. If they were butterflies, I would have had absolutely no trouble at all getting them on the page. But yeah, for some reason, I wasn't quite much a fan of moths. But yeah, I like them on the layout, and I've gone with pink to the left, and I've got these green and reds to the right. And I ended up putting one down on the bottom, which was a blue one, so that kind of facilitated a third cluster down there in blue and white, down the bottom of the page, and I love that. I think that really tops the page off and brings kind of a visual triangle around the page. So I'm quite happy I ended up putting those moths on the page. So I'm fussing cutting out a couple of more florals just to beef it up and add to it a bit. So we've got a red one. I'm going to do white and blue down the bottom of the page. So I've just popped them down there, and I also did a couple of pink ones as well. A pink one up there just to kind of cover that larger pink moth a little bit, and a blue and white down in the bottom. And then I'll layer that blue flower just over that moth a little bit. Okay, and a few more chipboard pieces. I'm trying to get on the page. I've got a blue one down in that blue cluster. And I had a bit of a disaster with my gold Liquitex ink. But I'm doing some splatters now. Just with a fine paintbrush. And I'm still looking for some phrases to put on. I'm determined to use up some of these. So we've got good things. It's a nice neutral. With happy, I just tuck that under the red one. So I'm going to glue them down. And I find one for the top left hand space. I tried that one, but the arrow was not quite right. I ended up going with this Did You Know, which I liked that. That was a bit more fitted up there nicely. And so I'm going to just fuss with it a little bit. Then I'll glue it down. And I wanted, when I use banners, I like to layer them, and I felt like I needed just a little bit more pink, so I ended up cutting off one of these words, and I tuck it under this blue banner down the bottom of the photo, and I like that. You can't see the words that are on it, but it just adds a little bit of interest up there. And I didn't realise while I was fussing around with this that the thicker sheet smudged over my gold Liquitex acrylic ink. There we go, I've discovered it. Disaster. And smudged it a bit, so I thought, what am I going to do? Let's try some big massive blobs, and I hadn't managed to cover the smudges, so I tried some more flicks, and that made it worse. It was just a nightmare. It was like Lemony Snicket's A Series of Misfortunate Events. I tried to dab it up a bit, still not working. Okay, stop, compose yourself. I fussy cut another floral, stuck it on a foam dot, and covered it up. So there we go. All done. Hope you enjoyed the process, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.